Welcome to today's episode of Confessions of a Cleaning Business Owner. And today, Diane and I are going to be talking about imposter syndrome. So, Diane, let's start with what is imposter syndrome?
So I think imposter syndrome is kind of feeling like you're going to get found out almost, feeling a bit of a fraud, doubting that you're a real business owner. And it's quite common, and those of us that have businesses and actually women especially. But yeah, it's just thinking you're going to get found out, I think.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I don't think there's one specific answer as to what it is. I don't feel like a fraud when I get it. I feel like I'm not good enough. I can't do it. Why am I even here? Why did I even think I could do this? And it's just, for me, it's like hide in a hole, pretend it's not happening.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that when I was sort of doing a bit of research for the podcast was somebody was suggesting that it's your brain trying to keep you safe by pulling you back into your comfort zone. So it often hits this imposter syndrome when you're growing or stretching yourself or the business, and you're raising prices. We can all start to panic and think, they're not gonna think we're good enough. And maybe you're first starting out hiring the team. Who on earth would want to work with me because I'm not a real business owner, and launching new services. So all these things can just sort of start to eat away at us, I suppose, a little bit. And yeah, if you don't feel like you've had any formal business training, which most people haven't, and maybe you've just come off the tools and it feels a bit weird, and now you've no idea what your place is in the business anymore, and you feel like, well, I'm meant to be the boss, but I'm not very good at this.
Do you know, I think that's one of the hardest times. I think there's two times people feel it when they come off the tools because they feel judged. What are my staff going to think of me? They're going to think I'm really lazy. What am I going to do? People think I'm too big for my boots and different phrases along that way. They really struggle with coming off the tools mentally, justifying their own job role almost to themselves and to others.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think we've all felt it at times. I probably still even now feel it, certain things. How about you, Louise?
Yeah, so you asked me this. Yes, I definitely do feel it. I think it's a little bit different for me because my life is so unbelievably hectic that I feel it. I feel like a failure. I feel like I can't do something. Then I get on with 10 other tasks. And then by the time I come back to it, either I put it off again, and eventually, if I put something off enough because I feel like I've got imposter syndrome, eventually I realize something's going wrong and I'll bring it up. I've got a really good support network. I've got you, and I'll go, I'm not doing this. So help. And I think for me, I'm very lucky that I can just go, I'm failing. I am utterly failing. Are you going to do this for me? Or are you going to help me in some way? Or are we outsourcing this? Or is it just not going to get done? And I think, but I guess that comes with experience. I still get the imposter syndrome. There's a reason I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, also one of the things that I was saying to you was that, in your cleaning business, you have your husband, you work together, and, you can, if you've got a challenge that you need to talk about, so for instance, price increases, you can talk about that between you and kind of validate each other and support each other, can't you? And make it feel all right by somebody that's actually within the business. Whereas, yes, you can have a network of people outside the business, but having somebody within the same business means that you've just got a different level of support, I think.
I think it is very different. And I find it really interesting on our price rise because we'll talk about it. And obviously, every decision should be made on figures and facts. So we look at it, we look at the figures and facts, decide on the prices based on those figures and facts, and it's way higher or way beyond where we thought it would be. And he turns to me and he goes, right, it's your job to sell it. So he will happily put the prices up, knowing that when the shit hits the fan, it's my problem. And I think it kind of absolves you from a little bit of responsibility. And I'm sat there going, no, how am I going to do this? But then because, again, I'm working for someone else, I'm selling that business that I'm slightly detached from. Again, I haven't got that same emotional attachment. I think when it's your own business and you've made the choice to charge that amount and you've said to everyone, this is what I'm worth, right? And they're going, I don't think you are actually. Like, that's a really different twist on the same conversation that we're potentially having. Whereas I go, okay, you can't afford us then. You're going, I'm not worth it.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a bit like, when we do our Monday calls for our DCBN members, our one-to-one calls, they've got us there as it, we might not be in their business, but we know enough about cleaning businesses to be able to say these things and be that sounding board, I suppose, that you have in your cleaning business and we have together in the DCBN where we run the business together.
Yeah, I do find most of the conversations that I have with people, though, they already know the answers. They know what they should be doing, and they almost want to go, Louise, tell me that what I'm doing is right. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Yes, it is. Fine, go for it. It's gonna work. And 9 times out of 10, it does work, but it's having belief in yourself, isn't it?
And it is that support and encouragement, and sort of say, if you were to, well, Gareth says we've got to put the prices up. Well, you've agreed you're putting the prices up to this amount. If you said to Gareth, I'm struggling with this, what can we do? You would be able to share ideas and move forward. He might just say, get over it, Louise, and you can do this. But it's just having somebody else there to validate you sometimes, isn't it?
That has happened in the past, right? I know this isn't quite on topic, but there are times when he's going, we need more business. And I'm going, I can't get more business in. And I'm going, you have to give me time because and this is what a lot of people running the business don't realize, there's a lag time. I can put in all the work in the world now, but that work is going to be pouring in 3 months' time. It doesn't happen instantly. And so it's kind of really having enough confidence in yourself and belief that this is going to work. And that only comes through experience, doesn't it? Because that does happen. He's going, I need that work. Our staff don't have enough work. And I'm like, I can't magic it out of nowhere. And if I rush work through, guaranteed we have a biggest pile of problems you've ever seen, and he'll hate me even more.
Yeah, if you suddenly, yeah, I suppose it's a bit like with clients and with staff, isn't it? Is if you recruit or take on new clients in desperation, you regret it, definitely.
Because I'll take it on. It's not quite the job. It's not one I'd normally take on because we say no to a lot. But you suffer, don't you, a little bit with imposter syndrome because you've had a lot of success in your business life, okay? And you would think you don't suffer with it. So it's strange to me that you do.
I do definitely. I've been through times of, if I'm making any kind of change, is this a mistake? I remember when we made changes in the DCBN a couple of years ago for me and you to be working together. It's any time there's a big change, I think, is when I'm like, am I making the right decision? And Mark is wonderful. Mark's supportive, but he's not in the business with me. So sometimes I sort of struggle. I have too many conversations with myself, I think. And I think that's where you can damage your own self-confidence by your self-talk, I think. And that's probably something that I do, not very often, but I do it. And one of the things I like about working with you in the DCBN is that you've always got somebody else there that if I'm in a couple of weeks of thinking, oh, I'm not quite on my game here right now. And so I'll reach out to you and go, Louise, I need some extra support here, or can you do this? And vice versa. We do it with each other, don't we? And it does make it easier, definitely having somebody else. And I'm not saying that, everybody listening should be right. You need a business partner, but I do think you probably need to tap into networks or people that are going to understand and be your backup and your sounding board, because I do think it's really useful.
I find that working with you because I'll do a couple of weeks and then I'll be in a bit of a rut and nothing's quite gone right. And you know how like everything slows down and you just go, well, I haven't even got that much work to do. And then I'll speak to you and you're like, blah, 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 I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm like, okay. And I match that energy and it'll raise me back up. And I find that in your own business, when it's you that's being relied on, I need that boost of other people. I don't know. I kind of think sometimes I'm quite competitive, and it's not that I want to bring someone down, but I will match it if I see that someone else is doing well, and I need that.
So you get inspired by other people rather than thinking I need to beat them. It's more I need to up my game.
Do you know what else? And I think a lot of us compare ourselves to others and often feel like we're not doing well. Whereas I very much feel like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I need someone to be doing better for me to go, well, why can't I do what they're doing? If they've already sort of paved the way, why can't I do it?
Yeah, and we see that quite a lot in our industry, I think, don't we? Where it's hard not to compare yourself to others, but it's using it in that much more positive way because, you might see somebody out there on social media saying, oh, this is going really well this week and this has gone really well and my business is doing amazing. There will be challenges in the background, no doubt, but sometimes on social media we show our good things, but actually use that as inspiration rather than thinking, well, why can't I do that? I'm obviously not good enough if I can't do that. That's a different sort of way of looking at it compared to yours, which is, well, if they can do it, so can I.
Yeah, I think it's really hard. And I find it very interesting, particularly in our positions where we talk to so many business owners, because you go on social media and they're doing phenomenally. They've got work pouring in. It's a different after builders clean or whatever every day. And then you talk to them and they're nearly in tears and they're not running at a profit. And I'm like, this is so different to where I thought the conversation was going to go. And I think it's really easy to compare yourself. And I'll tell you the other thing that I think is really interesting as a cleaning business to compare yourself to, because quite often we don't compare ourselves to other cleaning businesses. We compare ourselves to other businesses, and cleaning isn't the most glamorous or sexy of industries, right? Is it a good industry? Absolutely. But you compare yourself to, I don't know, a much more glamorous one, and they seem to be making much more money and everything else. The reality is that you are probably making more money than them. And that's what I think we don't see. Like, especially if you compare it to like content creators or what other industries are quite glamorous, Diane? I don't know, football, fashion, marketing. They're not making any money. You are, and you are making money by slogging it out day by day. You will make more money than them because it's only the top 1% of them. 90% of us are going to make good money. And I think
I
that's
think a good comparison that often happens is with the carpet cleaning industry as an example compared to regular cleaning, whether it's domestic or commercial. And I've worked with carpet cleaners, so I understand their businesses and how it tends to work with them. And we'll compare ourselves to them because they're like, well, wow, they just earned all that money in, they're earning £55 an hour or whatever they're earning equivalent. But the reality is, they're probably only booked up for, if they're lucky, 6 weeks, but more reality, probably the next few weeks. And they're constantly having to find new customers. So actually, that £55 an hour, they might not actually be doing as much regular work as a cleaning business that signs a client 3 hours every week, and you go there hopefully, for years and years to come, and you don't have to be constantly finding new customers. So I think sometimes we have to be careful what we're comparing ourselves to, don't we?
the other thing. Let's just compare to like an accountant. Okay, you're gonna like where I'm going with this one, Diane. So let's say an accountant makes 100 grand a year. Okay, turnover, obviously there's a lot of costs that come out of that. They've studied for a long time to get to that level and they are proud because that is a good salary. Well, it's not that hard for a cleaning business to make a turnover of 100 grand a year. Like, you could get there. Most people get there comfortably within a year. You can hit the VAT threshold just above that. And I think we don't realize what we've kind of achieved to get to really a very similar turnover level.
And do you think that's key here as well? Is like, actually look at your business. And I had a conversation with one of my coaching clients this week who's struggling a little bit with, I think it's a level of imposter syndrome, but what it's doing is sort of making her doubt what she's achieved already and whether she can continue that growth in the future. And we actually had a bit of a reality check by looking at the business and kind of looking at the finances, and the business is doing really well financially. It's making good profit. And, and actually, it's only a relatively new business. The business is only 3 or 4 years old. She gets really, really good customer feedback. The team has grown. The team are actually really well settled as well. So some really good long-term team members. Like I said, good client feedback. And, sometimes you need to actually look at what you've achieved and celebrate that a little bit in order to make you realize, wow, actually, this is pretty good. And I've had loads of conversations with people over the years where it's sort of like, oh, this is where I'm at and I want to get here and I don't know how I bridge that gap. And I'm like, you start with what you've already learnt and achieved and you build on it. And sometimes they don't recognize what they've built and achieved. They might be at 10 staff and it's like, Most people don't get that far in this industry, is the reality, do they, Louise? It's hard to get to that level. And then the next step onwards, actually, based on everything you've learned, getting to those 10 members of staff and that size of business stands you ready for the future.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when someone comes to me with those kind of problems because there's a part of me and my training that goes, all right, let's dig deeper here and go, right, let's actually solve the fundamental problem. But then there's a part of me that goes, actually, most people don't need to be dug deeper on. We don't need to work out what the problem is. We almost just need to follow a roadmap to just forget about the problem and get on with it. And
Yeah.
so it's really tricky because I think when you talk about imposter syndrome, and when we're struggling, there's a culture of let's really solve it. Let's find out what's caused it. Sometimes for good people, we just need to plow through it and forget about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, that confidence comes after you've done something, not before you've done it. And if whatever is going on is stopping you doing the next step, you need to go, well, okay, actually, this is what I've achieved. So I can do the next step. Let's just do it. And then that confidence will come from the actual action, won't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it was a genuine, really big thing, then yes, solve it. But for most of us, it's just absolute self-doubt. I'm not good enough. Just get on with it. Just do it
And
anyway.
and the reality is, you're a business owner. It's hard and you have to be brave sometimes. That's the nature of being a business owner, isn't it? It's like we often say, don't we, that your job as a business owner is to solve problems every single day. And the bigger your business, generally, the bigger the problems. But actually, the bigger the business, more experienced you are at solving those problems. And you can use that experience to fall back on to help you solve the next one.
Yeah. I don't know if I say I feel brave. I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel brave. I feel like I just get on with everything simultaneously. And I'm like, I
But
feel
I
like
think I think the bravery is actually because we carry on despite feeling overwhelmed.
yes. And do you not I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like I am spinning so many plates and sometimes I drop a plate, right? But they say if you want something done, ask someone busy because the level of overwhelm that I live with on an absolutely daily basis is well beyond where most people would ever come close to feeling comfortable. And they're like, well, how can you just get on and do normal things and have normal conversations and just happily sit and have dinner and forget about things when you have so much going on? And I'm like, it's the very fact that I've lived with it for so long, I just have to ignore it. Do
Is
you
that not
find
is
this?
that not denial?
I think it's learning to live with stress, just learning to live with it.
Yeah. And I suppose it's not just learning to live with stress. You've probably got some strategies that you're using to to help you with that stress, whether it's taking the dogs for a walk or talking to Gareth, talking to me. They will be doing things that are helping you with that stress, even if they're unconscious.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm very aware of is being aware of my own stage of mental health. And when things get too stressful, so when I'm finding that I'm getting snappy or I'm reacting badly with this, then it's acknowledging that really early on and going, nothing matters that much. Let's take a step back, lower whatever it is, your stress levels, the adrenaline, let's lower it a little bit and then carry on and not allowing yourself for any activity to get you too stressed. So it's a lot of mental regulation. Is this just me? Do you know what? People are going to listen to this and go, Louise, there's a whole heap of like psychological problems you're talking about here.
You just push them to the bottom of the box. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But no, I think naturally we all have strategies that we've been using all our lives to deal with certain things. But I think throw a business into the mix and it's just next level, isn't it? And you know what? It's only because we care so much about our businesses and how successful are. That's the only reason these sorts of things niggle at us, I think, is because we actually care about it. If we didn't care, it wouldn't be happening.
Yes. I find it interesting when you say about caring because one of the things you very much teach is turn the emotion off.
Yeah.
And then you go, we care too much. How do you balance that?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like we do need to care about our businesses in terms of how successful they are and the rewards that that can bring us. When I say turn the emotions off, I mean that it shouldn't be our identity. it shouldn't be so emotionally, such an emotional attachment that it has the danger of damaging our mental health. Because everything else is far more important than our business.
I'm going to ask you a quick question. It's interesting when you say about identity, and obviously you do run multiple businesses. How much do you link your identity with your business?
It's interesting actually, because I almost feel like I've got a split personality sometimes, in that, it's not that I have a persona. I don't mean it like that. I don't mean that, I'm not being me. I just mean that it's hard to separate, but you have to, because if you talk about business with your friends who are not business owners, you're going to bore the pants off them. You have to just be Diane. You just have to be you and talk about everything outside of work. Just like if they came to the dinner table with all their work problems, you wouldn't really be that interested in those either. So I think as a business owner, you almost do have to have a split personality. You're a business owner here, and when you leave the office or turn off your computer, you're you again.
How does that work for people that employ their friends?
Well, I think that's where you're going to have challenges because, and I know this from experience, it crosses lines that are not entirely healthy to cross. Now, running a business with a friend is different from employing a friend. So, I've been in business partnerships. I think we're friends. And, my property business was in partnership with a friend and they worked really, really well. And we were able, I'm thinking about the property partnership, we were able to keep work and friendship separate. But if you were my employee, Louise, that would be a very different relationship. So for me, I would never cross that line again.
You wouldn't employ a friend?
Not again, no.
I have got to say, I find it hard because as soon as a friend works for me, there's things that I can't be open with anymore. You definitely can't talk about other staff. I can't really talk about work. And so things that I might have been able to open up to with a friend, and I don't tell a great deal about my work to friends, but just little funny stories or things, you can't tell anymore. And so there does become an extra barrier there. I'm not saying it ruins friendships, but I definitely pull back if they're involved with my work.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, we've talked about this before, that one of the challenges of being the business owner is that you don't have colleagues at work anymore. And when you work for somebody else and you work in the same department as somebody else who's also employed in that business, they're your colleague. But when you're the business owner, it's the relationship is different. It just is, even if we don't want it to be, it just is. And yes, so if you employ your friends, then they're no longer your friend at work. Therefore, you have to be careful outside of work as well.
Yeah, to be fair, I find this really difficult all round in terms of sort of your standing in the community as well, because we live in, like a lot of people, live in a relatively small town. Well, actually, it's not that small, but lots of people. So there's people from your kids going to school, to brownies, to swimming. I've got hobbies, they might know me from running, from climbing. They could be customers I've done quotes for that they've never taken me on. They found someone else. They might be current customers. They might be past customers. They might be in any way related. They might be competitors. And when you walk into a room, and I found this recently, I was at an award ceremony and I was like, we've got one ex-customer, we've got two current customers, we've got competitors. And I was like, who are you? Because you almost have to be a little bit different and a little bit guarded with some and less guarded with others. And it's really hard, isn't it? And it's not having a split personality, but it's protecting every part so you're not almost saying the wrong thing, and so you're being respectful to them while maintaining your boundaries. It's really hard.
And I suppose the reality isn't that life? We have close friends and family, and then we have everybody else, and we can't necessarily let our guard down with everybody else because, yeah, you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's listening.
Yeah, I love being at the DCBN ones though, because I love it because you can just be honest, and like you would say they're all competitors, but they're not.
And I think that's the thing, is one of the nicest things about the DCBN community, and when we do networking events and online as well, is that for all that we've all got different businesses, we on the whole pretty much all get it. And if we are having a challenging time, there is a safe space there that you can ask for ideas and suggestions from people that have been there, done that. It's not quite the same as, having somebody actually in business with you, but it can be really helpful.
Yeah, well, I love it because people don't join the DCBN generally unless they've got a sense of community. They want to share. And obviously, we completely overshare on things and give away loads of knowledge. But what I find really weird in my local area is I'm going to say competitors. They're people that have started a cleaning business, maybe done pretty well, 4 or 5 staff. I don't know who they are. I've got no idea. I don't look because there's too many of them. They know who I am. And so, like, it's like a disproportionate relationship because they're like speaking to me like I'm supposed to know who they are. And I'm like, I have no idea. And I will be quite open and talk to them like I would anyone else, anyone in the DCBN, and go, well, let's chat about it. You know, we're all in the same industry. And they are just not from that culture. And I find that really hard sometimes with local people. Like, do you find this? Do you speak to local people?
Well, yeah, because I run, local meetups, so I'll quite often run a Yorkshire meetup, and it's not always just DCBN members that come along, and I really like it because I like to dispel the myths, really, that we are competitors, because the reality is, and actually, interestingly, somebody from our local area did ring me the other day and was asking about a few different things and whether I wanted to do something with them and related to getting new customers, and I was like, I don't really need customers. We've got plenty of business. I might compete with my local businesses on recruitment, but we don't really have to compete for customers. We're all in a very good position. But I always like talking to other cleaning business owners because there's so many commonalities and stories that we can share, that we've all had similar experiences, and those that are less experienced are going to have those experiences, and if they can learn it from everybody else early doors, they maybe might react to it differently and not make the same mistakes we did.